to, the Christian magazine that called for President Trump's removal, is defending its decision to speak out, even as the president's evangelical supporters push back. The op-ed was from the editor-in-chief of Christianity Today, who called the president, quote, profoundly immoral. Here he is yesterday speaking more about it.
I'm not really speaking politically, making a political judgment about him, because that's not our expertise at Christianity Today. I am making a moral judgment that he's morally unfit, or even more precisely, it's his public morality that makes him unfit. Because all of us, anybody in leadership has, none of us are perfect. We're not looking for saints. We do have private sins, ongoing patterns of behavior that reveal themselves in our private life that we're all trying to work on. But a president has certain responsibilities as a public figure to display a certain level of public character and public morality.
Well, now the magazine's president and CEO is speaking out. In an editorial published yesterday, he writes this: "Let me protect against two misunderstandings. The problem is not that we as evangelicals are associated with Trump, the Trump administration's judicial appointments, or its advocacy of life, family, and religious liberty. We are happy to celebrate the positive things the administration has accomplished. The problem is that we as evangelicals are also associated with President Trump's rampant immorality, greed, and corruption, his divisiveness and race baiting, his cruelty and hostility to immigrants and refugees, and more. In other words, the problem is the wholeheartedness of the embrace. It is one thing to praise his accomplishments. It is another to excuse and deny his obvious misuses of power." Meanwhile, more than 100 evangelicals who support the president signed on to a letter to the magazine's president that stated, quote, "Your editorial offensively questioned the spiritual integrity and Christian witness of tens of millions of believers who take seriously their civic and moral obligations. It is up to us and those evangelicals like us to decide if we should subscribe to, advertise in, and read your publication online and in print. But historically, we have been your readers." The president attacked the magazine in a series of tweets on Friday, one calling it a far-left publication and vowing never to read it again. Another tweet reads, quote, "I guess the magazine, Christianity Today, is looking for Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, or those of socialist communist bent to guard their religion. How about Sleepy Joe? The fact is that no president has ever done what I have done for evangelicals or religion itself." Rick Tyler and then Reverend Al. I'd love to hear your take on this. It seems, though, that supporters of Christianity Today and those who are writing in against it are deciding to take a very blind eye to what Christianity Today and the editor-in-chief is trying to say. They can support some things, but they can't, like, wholeheartedly embrace everything this president has done, some of it which has been highly immoral. Why is that so hard to see?
Well, good morning, Mika. Well, thank Trump for God. I mean, God wouldn't be able to get all these things done if it weren't for Trump, and that seems to be the position he's taken. But look, what Christianity Today is, you know, they have overturned the tables of the money changers in the temple courts, and they've disrupted their business models. And I know that hurts to hear for a lot of people, but a lot of this is about money, because they raise money off of, you know, off the judge issue, off the life issue, and all those things could be the great causes, but you know, they want to have this issue, and Trump has given them judges. But what they're saying is that the ends don't justify the means, and this president has demonstrated beyond doubt now, according to many people in Christianity Today, that his character and his moral behavior is not suited to be president, and the most important thing, I think, is that for Christians, when you uphold Trump as some sort of paragon of virtue, and I know they're not saying that, but when they're saying that this is the person that we uphold, that we want to keep as president because we're getting the things that we want, it destroys your witness, because what it does is it tells people who are non-Christians, and non-Christians can be equally as moral as Christians, that Christianity is sort of a farce, that it's not real, that it's not true. And if they uphold Trump and essentially endorse his behavior, because there's very little that's said about the things that Trump says and does. Take, for instance, the latest attack on the widow from Michigan, whose name escapes me at one very second. I heard very little. I've heard very little outrage about that, and so Christianity Today is saying this person is characterly and is morally unfit to serve, and it's not a political statement at all. It's a moral statement.
And Reverend Dell, what's your take? I mean, this cult of personality is you've got this one magazine that's really calling out evangelicals in a way that nobody else can, which is saying, who are you? Who are you? And what is it that you support? Why can't they support the two things that the president has done for them and then wholeheartedly push away everything else that he stands for, because it goes against what their core beliefs and core values are?
We had Mark Galley, the editor of Christianity Today, on Politics Nation last night, and he made it very clear this is not a political position. It's a moral one. And by raising it to that level and putting it in that perspective, he not only exposes the president, but he exposes a lot of the evangelical leaders, saying, I support the president on his judicial nominees. I support the president on a lot of things, which I don't, but he does. He says, but you can't get away from his immorality. You can't get away from his divisiveness, his lying, his race baiting. He laid it out. And I think there's a scripture that said, what profits a man to gain the world and lose his own soul? He's actually challenging them that, are you bargaining and selling your soul for some judicial appointments and some other things that the right wants? But you've given up the soul of the church. What do we stand for? And I think it's a devastating blow. This is a magazine, Mika, that was founded by Billy Graham. They also supported the impeachment of Richard Nixon and Bill Clinton. So why all of a sudden is it so controversial with these leaders that they would come for the impeachment of Donald Trump? When they did it to Bill Clinton, the evangelical leaders weren't insulted. When they did it to Richard Nixon, they weren't. The reason they're so offended is it's exposing all of them, that they would take this shameless con man over the principles that they're preaching in the holy season. As we celebrate Jesus, they would sell Jesus out if they felt they could get something from it, is the inference he's saying from his editorial. And that's sad on many levels.
But what is he giving them that is called, what am I missing, Susan Del Percio? What is he giving them that would be worth even an attempt at selling their souls and selling everything they stand for? What is it? Money? Is it access? I mean, I do remember looking at some Christian broadcasts where they keep talking about going to the White House and, different anchors having access. Is it access? What is it that is so consuming? What is it that is so desiring to them that they would throw away everything they stand for, throw away their morals?
Because they have someone in the White House that they believe will champion their cause. The problem, of course, is that Donald Trump has no core values, so he just listens to what other people has to say. He's not going on what he believes is right, because he doesn't know what's right or wrong. He just goes to where he thinks the votes are. And, it's always been that way with Donald Trump. If he's on the fly, he has a 50-50 shot of trying to make someone happy and say the right thing. But, and it's very important when you look at that editorial, these were not personal failures of the president that they were judging morality on. These were his failures as president on immigration, on children in cages, on race baiting. These are the core principles, against in impeachment specifically, not supporting the Constitution, in fact, going against it. So it's also important to recognize this was not on his personal side, but rather on what he has done as president.
Nick Confessori, I'll take the president's comment and turn it into a question. Is there a viable option on the Democratic side for an evangelical who's becoming sick of Trump and is looking for alternative?
Well, certainly, I think there's a bunch of candidates on the left who could appeal to some of these voters. It's obvious that this is a core constituency for the president. It's people who are going to be strongly with him in 2020, you know. But there are some voters there who might take heart from this piece of writing and say, look, perhaps this guy is right, and I should reconsider support of the president and consider if he is truly in accordance with the values that I profess as a Christian.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.